One of the biggest decisions that you're going to have to make when it comes to planting grass seed is going to be, what grass seed should I choose? So let's get out of the weeds. Thank you for coming back to another video. If you like these videos, please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. So a few months back, me and my wife moved into a new home, and we love the home, love the area, but man, it has absolutely no grass. If you see from these videos here, the front was all sodded about a year ago, but never watered, so it never really took. The front was pretty much about dead. The back was seeded, but never watered, so nothing really grew. Barren wasteland. So we moved into the house right as summer was kind of kicking off, and so I kind of did an experiment of, hey, let's just throw down some grass seed in the back here and water it a bunch and see what happens. Well, that didn't really work out very good because so many weeds, the weed competition was so great, and I got a lot to pop up, but it was like 80 or 90% weeds and not much good grass. So I've been waiting kind of for this moment now to plant new grass seed. But the biggest question that I've had to answer is, man, what grass seed should I choose? Now, when it comes to our cool season grass types, the main ones that you're going to have to choose from are going to be Kentucky Bluegrass, Perennial Ryegrass, Tall Fescue, and Fine Fescue. Now, within these main types of grass types, there's many different varieties that will have slightly different characteristics, but I'm going to go over a generalization that you can come to expect pretty much with each of those grass types. Now, beginning with Kentucky Bluegrass. Kentucky Bluegrass is by far the most popular one, the one that even people that aren't into lawns have heard of. And what it's known for typically is you're going to get your like deep dark green color. It's going to be thin bladed. It's a spreading type grass. So Kentucky Bluegrass spreads from rhizomes, which are going to be underneath the ground, and it kind of branches off and spreads that way. So it's a spreading type grass. It's going to be one that does mostly good in full sun. You're going to want this is not going to be a great shaded grass. It's going to be a grass that's going to be better in more of the full sun. It's going to be high maintenance requirements. So with that, I'm meaning it's going to need regular fertilization, regular watering to really maintain it really well, as opposed to some of the other less maintenance ones where you don't have to be as stringent on if you want to get the best results from it. Now, the thing with Kentucky Bluegrass, when you're growing it from grass seed, you're talking a longest germination time out of all the grass seeds. And now when I'm talking germination time, that means the time from when you put grass seed on the ground until you start to see the baby grasses pop up. With Kentucky Bluegrass, you're going to be mostly looking at a range somewhere between 21 to 30 days, somewhere in kind of that 3 to 4 week mark before you even start to see the grass start popping up. So you got to be consistently watering. Next, we have Perennial Ryegrass. Perennial Ryegrass is similar to Kentucky Bluegrass in that it is another one that's mostly going to be more in your full sun. So in full sun, we're talking kind of more than 6 hours a day of full sun is kind of where you're going to want to put these. Perennial Ryegrass is also a thin bladed grass. It is typically a bunch type grass. So by bunch type, it's not one that's going to be spreading. It grows in bunches all there, and the bunches will just get a little bit thicker in that to help fill things in, but it's not actually going to spread and really be able to help cover bare areas. With Perennial Ryegrass, it is also going to be a higher maintenance grass, requiring regular fertilization and regular watering to maintain kind of its peak look. So the really good thing with Perennial Ryegrass is it has the shortest germination time out of all the cool season grasses, with a range between 3 to 7 days until you start to kind of see your baby grasses. Another interesting thing to note when you're looking at grass seed bags in your store, Perennial Ryegrass and Kentucky Bluegrass will often be mixed together as a seed blend in the bags of grass at the store. Now, the reason they do this is because the two grasses share a lot of the same characteristics, but the one thing that people that are just buying grass seed don't want to do is wait on the results. You throw grass seed down and you're having to keep it consistently wet over like 3 to 4 weeks before you even see grass pop up. A lot of people don't want to put in that commitment, so they put perennial ryegrass in that mix as well, so that way you get the quick germination, and then the Kentucky bluegrass will come back in on the back end and help kind of fill everything in. So it's very common to see those two types of grasses mixed in together. The next cool season grass that is very popular is going to be called tall fescue. Now with tall fescue, I always like to break it up in between normal tall fescue and turf type tall fescue. There's a big difference there. Now, they share a lot of the same characteristics, but no, if you're just talking about your old school tall fescue, this is going to be a very thick bladed grass compared to all of the other cool season grasses. And this is one that really isn't that desirable if you're trying to maintain and keep a nice looking home lawn. But what it is good for is it's good for big, wide commercial areas. The reason this is because tall fescue is a low maintenance grass. It does very good in the full sun. It can do pretty well even in more of the shaded areas. It doesn't need as much water to stay green. It doesn't need fertilized as much compared to your perennial ryegrasses and your Kentucky bluegrasses. So it's a really good grass to put in an area that isn't really going to get regularly watered, mowed, fertilized, and all that. So most of your commercial areas at your parks, alongside highways, and those kind of areas, you're going to look, if you look down closely, it's thick bladed grass. It's the tall fescue grass. Now, what has happened over the years is as they've continued to develop the grass seed and make them better, they've developed turf type tall fescue. So what you're getting with turf type tall fescue is a much thinner bladed grass that better mixes with all the other cool season grass types. Now, one giant problem area that most people go through with cool season grass are tall fescue clumps. You'll look in your yard and you'll see this big, nasty, spiky looking clump of thick bladed grass. That's your old school tall fescue growing in clumps within your yard. So if you have turf type tall fescue, it can blend a lot better with some of the cool season grasses and isn't that really thick bladed stuff. The tall fescue, it is also typically known as a bunch type grass, so it's not something that would typically spread. Now, recently over the past few years, they have developed called RTF, rhizomatous tall fescue. This is tall fescue that can also spread with rhizomes similar to how Kentucky bluegrass does. So you kind of get the best of all worlds there. You get the tall fescue benefits that doesn't require as much maintenance as what Kentucky bluegrass would, but now also spreads. So you can kind of it's a good all-around grass with not as much weaknesses. Lastly, we have your fine fescues. Fine fescues are what's going to be typically your best cool season grass for your shaded areas. These are going to be very thin bladed grasses that can either be bunch type or spreading type depending on the name. If you're looking at the name, you'll sometimes see creeping fescue. That's going to give you an indication that it's going to be a spreading grass. Whereas you look at some of your other ones, chewing fescue, some of these other ones, these are going to be your bunch type grass. But these are typically, when you look at a store and see the bag for your shade mix, your shaded mixes of grass seed are typically going to be featuring fine fescues in there because they only require that kind of 4 to 6 hours of sun per day. As opposed to some of your others like Kentucky bluegrass and that are going to want way more of the full sun. And so if you're having kind of a tricky problem area with getting grass seed to grow well, really kind of look into trying to get some of those fine fescues. Now there's a lot more that I could get into with the different grass types. There's different diseases that the different grass types can be susceptible to and different issues and problems they have. But just know that there's so many different varieties of those grass types that some have better disease resistance than others. So whenever you're buying a bag of grass seed, you can look, there'll always be a seed sheet on the grass seed bag that will be able to tell you exactly what you're getting in the bag. So you'll be able to see the name of the Kentucky bluegrass you're getting. It might say midnight Kentucky bluegrass. You could go and Google search that and find kind of how it gets rated. They rate these different grass types based on their color, based on their disease resistance, wear tolerance, all kinds of things, full sun, partial sun, watering, no watering, everything. So you can find so much in-depth information about all these different grass types just by searching the names. So if you want to learn a little bit more and go beyond just the big letters on the bag telling you sunny mix or shaded mix, look a little bit into that seed sheet, because that'll give you a lot more of an indication of what type of grass you're actually getting. The one thing I always tell people when it comes to deciding what grass seed to get for their lawn is you get what you pay for with grass seed. If you're going to pay up for anything you do in lawn care, grass seed is the area to do it, because the better quality seed you get, it's going to make your life a lot easier when it comes to maintaining your lawn. So a few of the grass seed types that I've really liked over the last few years and have had some really good results with have been Jonathan Green's Tall Fescue line. I know I've used their Black Beauty, I've used their Dense Shade mix. So I've always really liked the results I've gotten from using Jonathan Green products. I actually did a seeding job on a vacant lot beside their business back in Ohio here a few years ago, and it's a lot that's surrounded by 2 buildings on each side, and it doesn't get a ton of sun. It was something more on the shaded side of it. So I planted some of the Jonathan Green dense shade in that area, and man, that yard, every single time I go back to Ohio, it is looking really, really good. The other one that I've really been using here over the last year or two has been Barenbrug's RTF, so the Rhizonomus Tall Fescue, and it has really, really done good. I did like a full seeding job back at my parents' house a couple of years ago, and I think I did somewhere around 5,000 square feet of just planting from just bare ground, and man, the results of that were excellent. The grass looks really, really good. It's one of the highest quality grasses that you can get. So now, what about my current lawn? Here a couple days ago, I rented a ride-on aerator, aerated the lawn, and did my seeding job, fertilizing, and put some peat moss over the top. Now the grass that I chose to go with was perennial ryegrass. My wife has been on me about having grass for the entire summer, and I have been struggling with this lawn the entire summer. And so she wants a lawn that we can get on quick. She doesn't want to wait. So I didn't want to throw down Kentucky bluegrass and have her asking me about it every day for 3 weeks while I wait for it to germinate. And so I need something with quick results. And so that was one of the main reasons. The other reason is we recently got the #1 enemy of a nice lawn, and that is a puppy. So now this guy here is our newest addition to the family, and going to be my #1 enemy in my lawn. And my wife wants him to have a nice lawn so he can go and start peeing and pooping and destroying it. And so she's tired of him having to go out on dirt, so she wants me to have some nice grass for him to use. So between my wife and this dog, this is why I chose perennial ryegrass. Now the one thing to note is that I didn't just go out and just buy any perennial ryegrass. I bought something that's newer over the last few years, and that is regenerating perennial ryegrass. As I said earlier in this video, perennial ryegrass is typically a bunch type grass, and so it's not going to normally spread. Well, with regenerating perennial ryegrass, this actually does spread with stolons. Now, whenever it comes to a spreading type grass, you're either going to spread by either rhizomes, which are under the ground, or stolons, which actually spread above the ground. And so this perennial ryegrass is going to germinate quick, and then also give the ability to help kind of recover and help try to fill in some of the spots because of its spreading ability, which normally wasn't ever seen with perennial ryegrass. So that's the reason for my choice, and we're going to see here soon how it turned out for me. So stay tuned over the coming weeks as I continue to document how the grass is growing, how the dog's destroying it, and if I can finally make my wife proud of the lawn that we have. So with that, I'll see you next time when we get out of the weeds into a beautiful lawn.